Western Montana. Gonna try and do a quick YouTube live update, give you a heads up of what we can expect over the next few days. Been having some audio difficulties, so we're trying another phone for this. I think this is now the 4th attempt on this for tonight. So hopefully this time it's working. I'll be able to check the audio here in just a second to see if we are in fact getting sound or if I'm still having issues. I hear myself. Thank goodness. All right, so I'll mute it there. Just for time's sake, I'll get running on this here pretty quickly now. But just like I said, want to pop in, do a quick update about what we can expect over the next few days as we are still dealing with some active weather right now, some scattered showers. We've been seeing some snow bands across the region, and you'll see that here as I spin this camera back around to show you that most recent look at radar, or at least the look over the last 6 hours. We've seen primarily northwest and west central Montana getting these showers. They've been light to moderate in most cases, though we have had a band or two that's been a little bit more on the heavy side. But southwest Montana, for the most part, other than a few flurries here and there, we've stayed dry so far this evening, and that's going to likely continue to be the case overnight tonight and into tomorrow. But areas along and west of the Divide, that's where our focus is going to be for these showers, and we're going to see them continuing to build into the region, at least for a few more hours. I say a few more hours, probably talking about another 12 to 24 hours before we really start to quiet down. So that was that look at looping radar, and we'll take a closer look at where some of those greatest impacts are right now. But I'll spin the camera back around, I think. There we go. And taking a look at current conditions across the region, we are just generally seeing cloudy skies for really the entirety of the region. Temperatures have fallen back down into the 20s right now, 24 Kalispell, 29 in Bozeman, 28 for Missoula, and 23 down in Dillon. Again, the focus has been primarily up towards Kalispell and Missoula, where we've seen some of those scattered showers this evening, and you can see those snow bands. They're relatively narrow, but in areas that have seen them, we've been seeing at least some moderate snowfall at times. And right now, some of the heaviest activity that we're contending with is this band that's closer to Lolo Pass, back over towards Stevensville, Victor, Hamilton. These areas are seeing some of that snow. Same story up here towards Seeley Lake and the Clearwater Junction area. That area got hit pretty hard a couple of hours ago, and I'm going to see if I can go back far enough to show this. Let's go back 4 hours in comparison to 3. See this band that took shape? It stretched from pretty close to the Huson and Frenchtown area up through Evero Hill and then across to the Highway 200 corridor north of Potomac, but over to over towards Clearwater Junction, Ovando, and further east from there in the direction of Lincoln. But this band just kind of set up there for just a little while. We had a couple of special weather statements, but you see how dark blue that got. That was that heavy band of snow. Don't know how much snow it did drop, but I did see the camera pretty close to this area right in here. It's the Greeno Hill camera. Did show some pretty heavy snow falling at the time. This is looking around, say, 6:15 this evening. That continued to push off to the east and pretty much started to wash out once it got closer into Helena. And now we're left with these lighter snow bands that continue to develop. Really looking like we're heading more towards our higher elevations. As you get north of Missoula, it's down into the Bitterroot Valley. Some light snow continues. Now, I forgot to mention this. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to ask those in the chat section. I'll try and answer them to the best that I can. So certainly feel free to ask those, and we'll go from there. Scattered showers like this are going to continue as we head throughout the remainder of the evening and overnight. And as we look at what we're tracking for the next few days, it's really 3 main things. The scattered snow showers, light to moderate in most cases for tonight and Friday, but that's all ahead of high pressure building in. And for most of the region, this is going to lead to warmer and calmer weather as we head into this weekend, shaping up to be a pretty nice weekend, all things considered. But late Sunday into Monday, Tuesday, that's when our next storm system moves in. It is likely going to be a warmer system, so that's going to lead to rising snow levels. But you might be thinking, a warmer storm, why are we talking freezing rain? Well, the high pressure ridge that's going to be moving in for this weekend may actually create valley inversions and lead to cold air getting trapped down at the surface, especially for our valleys west of the Divide. So we may be struggling with our temperatures and those cold pools down in the valleys. So we may have that all falling as rain for areas below, say, 5,500 feet. But once it hits that cold layer down right at the valley floors, we could be seeing it all transition over to freezing rain, to ice pretty quick. That's still a big question mark about how much those cold pools develop, how cold is the air in place, and does that little storm system for Monday and Tuesday start to mix those out a little bit. So there's a couple of very important things that still have to be kind of ironed out, and they have to balance with one another. But this will give us a sense of what we can expect in the relatively short term over the next few days. So starting off with Future Tracker and looking at the snowy side of things for the next day and a half, we're going to continue to see those scattered showers. And you notice they're primarily staying up in the higher elevations right along the state line back into Idaho and then along the divide. Not much of this is making it down into parts of southwest Montana, except for looking towards, say, the Crazy Mountains, the Big Belt, Bridger, and Castle Mountains right here from northern Gallatin County into Broadwater County. But most of that activity still staying back off to the west. Could see a few snow bands trying to develop some of the snow down into our valleys throughout the day tomorrow, but I still think the majority of the region will be staying dry other than a few light snow showers. Could be dealing with some issues over mountain passes, specifically looking at Lookout and Lolo passes, as well as up towards Marias Pass, where we could see some lighter accumulations. But once we get beyond, say, 6, 8 o'clock tomorrow, the high pressure ridge starts to take control, and we see that moisture essentially evaporate and move further off to the east, and that's going to leave us with relatively quiet conditions, still pretty cloudy as it looks like as we head into Saturday. And you'll see that ridge starting to build in. This is the look for tomorrow afternoon. You see that northwesterly flow on the kind of on the east side of that ridge over the region. But as we go into Saturday, that ridge centers right over western Montana. Things dry out. Those inversions slowly start to intensify. Then we get into Sunday. The ridge is still there, but into Monday, see how this, essentially the ridge axis or the center part of it is back here into California. This keeps us on the northern and northeastern sides of this, and this is why it gets the term, this is one reason why this type of high pressure ridge over the region gets the term a dirty ridge. And it's because it's not going to keep us completely dry. We're going to see some of this moisture riding up and over the top of the ridge, diving back into our region, and that's going to bring us at least the chance for some scattered showers. But again, because this is a Pacific system in association with that ridge of high pressure, snow levels will be rising as we go into Sunday night and Monday. But the fact that we have those at least potential valley inversions and the cold pools down at the surface, that's what's going to at least lead to the potential of some freezing rain. I think right now northwest and west central Montana, specifically northwest Montana, has the highest likelihood of that wintry mix as we head into Sunday and Monday. But before I get into that, and I kind of got my graphics back mixed up just a hair, but not too far off. As for additional snowfall that we're talking about, Lookout, Marias Pass, maybe about 1 to 4 inches before all is said and done. That's why I said maybe some minor travel impacts in those areas. Not expecting too much in the way of issue. Certainly not as bad as what we have contended with the last couple of days. Lolo Pass, I think we're probably more in that 1 to 4 inch range, even though it's only saying up to 1 inch. Lost Trail Pass, probably a little bit less than that. But as you get along the divide outside of Marias Pass, the further south and east you go, the less likely we are to be really dealing with much in the way of issues when it comes to snow. That said, wet roads will certainly at least be able to refreeze tonight, so we could see some icy spots just because of that from the moisture that we've already seen over the last few days. So even though we may not see quite as much in the way of heavy snow towards Rogers, McDonald, Homestake, Bozeman, Monida passes, don't let your guard down. There's still going to be at least the potential for some slick spots over the next couple of days. Snow issues, though, Marias, Lookout, Lolo, and Lost Trail passes. Now, getting back into that ridge of high pressure building, southwest Montana, I don't think we're really going to be dealing with any problems when it comes to inversions, and those temperatures are only going to be climbing through the weekend and into early next week. We're talking anywhere from 10 to 20 degrees above average Saturday through Tuesday. We're back likely into the upper 40s and maybe even low 50s for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, of next week at least. And then Thursday, we may start to see another system move through, starting to cool those temperatures down. But this gives you the sense of the kind of warmth that we could see across southwest Montana. West central and northwestern Montana, while I don't have this graphic pulled up, the warming is going to be a little bit slower, and the reason for that is the potential of valley inversions. So there's still a lot of question marks about how strong those inversions get. Are we going to actually see much of a warm up? In general, though, I still think we're talking temperatures anywhere from about 3 to 8 degrees above average into northwest and west central portions of the state. Maybe down towards the Bitterroot Valley, we're more into that 10 to 15 degree range above average. It's just going to be kind of a watch and see type of situation. So normally when we get these inversions, temperature forecasts earlier, say 3-4 days away from the inversion, they'll trend downward as those inversions become more likely, and that usually helps keep the temperatures down at least a little bit, if not a lot, going forward. But again, southwest Montana really not looking at any kind of issue. So let's go into the precipitation side of things, and we'll see that moisture staying off to the west with that ridge axis roughly in here across the region. Sunday, this is looking Sunday afternoon. A lot of that's still back into Washington, British Columbia. But watch as we go into Sunday night. We start seeing some of that into northwest, maybe even a little bit of west central Montana. Not expecting too much Saturday or Sunday evening. But watch as we get into Monday. This is when that next push comes in. And this is looking Monday afternoon. At least scattered activity up across northwest and west central Montana. Right now we're looking temperatures 38 to 41 degrees from Kalispell down through Missoula and into Salmon. But if those inversions strengthen, we could be talking temperatures closer to freezing, especially into places like Kalispell, Libby, Troy, the Yak Valley, the Highway 200 corridor, and at least the northern part of US 93. If that occurs, that's when we could be talking freezing rain in those slick conditions. At least to start this storm system Sunday night and into Monday. But as we go throughout Monday and go into Tuesday, likely we see that inversion, that cold air start to mix out, and temperatures will finally be able to transition all of the valley precipitation over to rain, while up in our higher elevations, about 6,000 feet, we're looking at it as snow. And you can see that here, going from the early afternoon, late morning, early afternoon, as more of those blues and pinks showing up. By the time we get into the afternoon, late afternoon and evening, you see how much more of this is green, and that likely will be that transition. At that point, we may not be dealing with any freezing rain issues. It's going to be more of a morning, early afternoon type of problem as it stands right now. And then looking at shower activity continuing into Tuesday, maybe even into Wednesday morning, but more likely Tuesday across really the core of the area. But most of this will also be as rain as compared to snow. And you see Bozeman again, 50 degrees into Tuesday, 47 Butte, 45 Missoula, and 41 into Kalispell. And then we dry out again into Wednesday as that ridge may get a little bit stronger and start pushing some of that moisture out of the region and intensifying. But like I said, we'll have to watch and see what happens. Some models are indicating another storm system moving in as we get into Thursday and Friday, which may bring those temperatures down, but there's plenty of time to watch that. So this, again, has been as brief as I could make it. Last chance if you got any questions or comments. The main takeaways, and I'll show you this right here again. Here are the three main things that we're tracking with this next 5-day period, roughly. Those scattered snow showers for tonight and Friday. I think for the most part, we aren't going to be dealing with too much in the way of travel impacts. Marias, Lookout, Lolo, Lost Trail Pass is most likely to be dealing with any kind of issues with that. But some scattered light snow bands can't be ruled out over the next, say, 36 hours or so. By the time we get to early Saturday morning, high pressure is starting to really move in. Most of the region is looking at warmer conditions. Calmer weather is expected area-wide for this weekend, with at least a little bit of sunshine peeking through as things stand right now. And then early next week, that next system moves through. Temperatures will be warming for most of the region still at this point, so snow levels 5,000 to 6,000 feet, but depending on how strong the inversions get this weekend may determine what kind of precipitation that we see. Most likely rain and freezing rain for our valleys as we head into late Sunday night, but more likely into Monday before we transition over to all rain at below 6,000 feet as we head into Tuesday and potentially even Wednesday. So like I said, that's kind of where we're at. Overall, in comparison to what we have seen the rest of this week so far, much quieter weather is on the way. Just some minor issues as we get into tomorrow morning, and maybe a little bit of black ice. Can't deny there could be a little bit of that as well. So if you have any photos or videos of the snow over the last couple of days, certainly feel free to share those with us at nbcmontana.com/chime-in. And of course, tune into our live broadcast coming up here in 15 minutes. It's another reason why I tried to go through this a little bit quicker, just because I got a couple of things to get ready and prepared for that live broadcast. But also tune in tomorrow, NBC Montana Today, with Chief Meteorologist Brooke Foster and Jason Hurst. They'll have the latest news and weather updates, as well as how those weather conditions, at least starting off the day, might impact your commute, and also what you can expect moving on into the weekend. And then, of course, I'll be back for tomorrow evening's shows as well. I likely won't be doing another YouTube Live tomorrow unless something drastically changes. So with that, I hope you all have a great rest of the night. Have a great close to your week, or to your work week here on Friday, and then a great weekend as well, as we are going to be looking at least much quieter conditions to look ahead. And then again, Sunday into Monday, that's when that next storm system moves in. Most likely, we'll see the impacts from it on Monday with mostly rain, but rain, freezing rain, and a little bit of high elevation snow. And that'll be something we watch for as we go throughout this weekend. So stay tuned, and I'll see you all on the next one with NBC Montana. I'm meteorologist Mitchell Coombs.